Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, my name is Mompoloki Mogobe. Welcome to another wonderful, exciting, invigorating and intellectually stimulating episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. I'm delighted to be your host. We always bring life-changing, dynamic information, something that you can use to change your life and to catapult you to greater heights. I have a guest who's not a first-time guest. He's coming for the second time, Dr. Wilbert Mutoko, who's also got an MBA and CIAI, but I always leave it to my guests to introduce themselves. Thank you for visiting our studio the second time.
Thank you, Lerumo Mompoloki.
Yeah.
And thank you, our viewers and listeners. Thank you for having me once again. It's such a pleasure. All right, so my name is Wilbert. I'm a student of life, very passionate about entrepreneurship, leadership, change management, and financial literacy.
Would you take a moment just to give us your background in terms of your training? Some of the viewers may not have seen you in the first visit.
Right.
Give them an idea and then introduce the subject we're going to talk about.
All right. Okay, so we are going to be talking on a subject, what you have is enough. What you have is enough. This was my third book that I wrote in 2017, and it has transformed many people's lives. Well, I once worked as a independent financial advisor. So that's the time when I wrote my first book, 15 Secrets for Personal Financial Success. Then I wrote another one called 16 Mistakes Singles Make, Volume 1. And then I wrote What You Have Is Enough.
Wow.
So by training, I'm an educationist. I have an MBA and I have a PhD in business management.
I see you have a book by the same title. When did you publish this book and what was the impetus for publishing this book?
This book was published in 2017, and the idea behind it was to encourage people to realize that there are times when we give excuses why we are not probably having more income, why we are not starting our businesses or growing our business. And what I was just trying to say in the book is to say that, not necessarily to say you have everything you need, but you have a seed that can help you to go to another level in your life and in your business.
Okay. 2019, we had a little bit of noise about something happening in Wuhan. And then 2020, America shut down Chinese flights. 1212, there was a lockdown there. And then 1st of April, it came to Botswana. So it's been like a whirlwind of disaster, and we've had close to 18 months of this going on.
Right.
18 months on, what would you say is the biggest lesson before we talk about your book?
That's a good one. The biggest lesson for me is that we must be adaptive. We must be willing to change. We shouldn't complain about the circumstances, but learn our lessons and learn them fast and move with the tide.
Someone will say, how can I ignore the fact that I'm losing my relatives, I'm losing my co-workers, some of them are constantly sick. How can I ignore the fact that some of my employees have to suddenly work from home? So how can I not complain about this horrible situation?
All right, so honestly, it's very painful that we are losing our relatives and we are losing our health. There is a lot happening. But I would like us to think of it as, life is a fight. Life is a battle. Or some might say life is a war. So we have to think and act like soldiers. Soldiers they are trained to get excited at the sound of bullets. When they hear noise of bullets and bombs, they get excited to fight. So as long as I still have breath, as long as I'm still breathing, fighting is the way to go. Complaining doesn't help anybody.
Because my first question, I don't know whether you answer it in this book, is
Right.
what can the ordinary person do to survive? And is it possible also to thrive, not just survive in this environment?
Thank you so much, Remogobe, for asking that. It is in these difficult moments that heroes and heroines are born. Almost everybody we know who became great, who became well-known, they became well-known because of the tests that they had to pass, because of the challenges that they had to go through. If Nelson Mandela had not gone through prison for 27 years, nobody would be talking about him today. Maybe he would have been a fine lawyer somewhere and nobody would really care much about him. If Mother Teresa had not faced so many challenges and she decided to say, how can I help people who are suffering everywhere? Yet we never hear how much was in her bank account, but she stood up for the less privileged, who would not be talking about her today. So I believe in these very difficult moments, it's the time to arise and ask ourselves, what is it that I have? Is it the energy I have? Is it an idea that I have? Is it a little bit of money that I have? Is it the social capital or the people that I know that I could get closer to and work on a project and get somewhere? So probably I need to also mention how I ended up writing this book, What You Have Is Enough.
Yes, I think that would help.
You know, I was tired, more than 20 years ago, I was tired of the little salary that I was getting from my job. I loved my job. And I was grateful for my employer, right? But the family was growing. The demands were, coming through. And black tax. Everybody is looking up to you, your brothers, your sisters, and everybody else. And I said to myself, what do I do? So I started searching, I started reading, looking at articles, looking at videos and stuff like that. And one day I came across an article which was talking about you being able to start from very little to become great. I got home very excited. And I told my wife, honey, I have an idea. We are going to change the way things are right now. She said, how are we going to do it? I said, what we have is enough to start off on the journey of entrepreneurship. So she said, what would you want us to do? It was in June. I said, I think...
June which year?
Should I mention the year?
Yeah, roughly, because this book was written in 2017.
2017, yeah. That was 2004, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere there. Right. So if I'm mistaken, it could be 2002. I think it should be 2002. So I said to my wife, honey, let's sell all the household goods that we have. We had a fridge, we had a bed. You know, when you are not that rich, in fact, you are not rich. You are not poor, but you are not rich, and you are far from rich. So my wife looks at me, she says, if we sell all these things, what will then happen? I say, we'll start a business from there. This will be our capital. I'm like, she said, okay, you are the head of the house. You can go ahead and do it. She had one more question for me. If we sell the bed, since we are in winter, where will we sleep? I wrote it in the book as well. So she says to me, I said to her, if we sleep on the floor and the cold gets into our brains, I think we are going to wake up. Then she says, okay, my husband, you are the head of the home. I'm very grateful for my wife. You are the head of the home. Go ahead. We sold everything, Remogobe. The TV was gone. The TV stand was gone. And it was very interesting.
You had fallen into some tough times.
Very tough times. So we went to the national newspaper. We advertised that we are selling. And as it were, people came and they took everything. You know, that situation where you are in the sitting room and you hear echoes when you are talking. You go to the bedroom, you hear echoes when you are talking. Then you know that is empty. It's only you and your wife and your children. But that was the beginning of a new thing. We started advertising. We started buying household goods and selling them. And before you knew it, we were into buying and selling of cars. Before we knew it, we could actually buy a plot, 2,400 square meters somewhere nice, and life changed. So the idea really is not really to talk about me, but to say, you know what? After I wrote the book, and many people have read the book, they have been giving me testimonies. Somebody says, I don't have capital. How much capital do you need? I need 2,000 pula. How much is your phone? You have a phone that is more than, like, for example, this phone. This is 13,000, right? And you say you don't have capital. You're not serious. Because what kind of phone do you need to start a business? Do you really need a phone worth 10,000, 13,000, or even 5,000? There are phones that are below that, which you can start with, and you run your business. And some people will say, I don't have capital to start a business. I think you have seen such people, Remo Hobby. I don't have capital to start a business, but you realize the car they are driving is a big car. 5 liter, 4 liter, 3 liter. Man, that's luxurious.
Sometimes it gets stuck in the middle of the road and they pretend that there's no fuel.
Then you have to borrow from your garden boy or from your maid.
It's a mechanical problem when there's no fuel, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Now, let's get to the heart of it. You say some people have been helped by this book.
Yeah.
What specific testimonies have you had, especially if any, from entrepreneurs? Because this show is really about entrepreneurs.
Perfect. I've gotten a lot of testimonies from people who were not working and they had to start from where they were. Like one young man sold his laptop to fund his small business to start. And I will give you another example of a multimillionaire who called me after reading the book. And he said, Wilbert, you just opened my eyes to realize that we have so many luxurious vehicles that belong to our company that are parked, that we are not using. That's a waste, because a vehicle loses value. They are losing value. We have a lot of equipment that we have not been using. But after reading your book, my eyes got opened. I called our guys. I said, guys, let's sell these things. We sell we sell those equipment, we sell those vehicles, and we put them into something else that is useful. So it has been a very helpful book.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in terms of readership, how widely read is it, and how are you marketing it?
The book is in Exclusive Books at Airport Junction. It's also at Bala Books. Of course, the honest truth is when you are new into authoring, you are overexcited and you will be pushing the book and all that. But these days, I'm not interested in pushing the book. I just get excited when somebody gets the books and they give me a testimony. I don't do it as a business. I've never written books as a business, but it's just to empower others.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in this environment of COVID, is there a chapter in the book that directly speaks to that, and what does it say?
There are a few chapters in the book. The chapter which goes together with the title of the book, which is, what do you have? I think it's very useful in the time that we are right now, because many people are losing their jobs. Many people have lost jobs. Many are still employed, but they are underemployed. There are some that are employed and it doesn't even make sense anymore, So I would think that the book comes at the right time, where it can encourage somebody to say, what is it that I have? For some people, they have social capital. They have people that they know, not for borrowing money, but to share ideas. For some people, they could do the way I did, where you sell your household items. For some people, they should sell their computers, whatever it is, so that they can start something on the side and be able to thrive.
Okay. Now, you do some work in terms of, because you didn't go deep enough in terms of your work.
Right.
Counseling. Can you just clarify to the viewer what other work you do?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm more well known as a financial doctor, because of the work that I've done with individuals and with the corporates and government, particularly on issues to do with financial wellness, training, consultancy, but I also do coaching. I do leadership coaching. I do financial literacy coaching as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any significant cases you've handled, without necessarily mentioning names, that you can speak to that have gone through your hands?
Yeah. Another thing I didn't mention there is that we also do research. So consultants obviously goes together with research. Yeah, we have done some research projects for big companies, like some that are listed on the stock exchange. Yeah, and it's quite exciting, not just about the money.
What are you researching?
Researching on, where you are looking at the market. Is the market still good enough? Because you remember last time when I was here, we were saying that many people don't like research, so they don't know what's happening around them. For example, if you were running a business before COVID and you are running it now, how do you really know who is still supposed to be your customer? Because things have changed and things are continuously changing. There are things that we were doing offline, now things have gone online. It's very easy for a business now to become irrelevant without noticing. You just wake up and your business is closed because things have changed. So for this particular project that I can remember, that I can talk about, we were looking at the dangers in the society that was surrounding that enterprise, to see the chances of rising criminality. So you are using your pastel to look at the political atmosphere, the economic factors, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah, then you come up with recommendations from that study to say to the company, what should they do to reduce levels of criminality, and also how can they empower the community? Because at the end of the day, I think you and I know that, for example, you have a farm somewhere. If you want your farm to thrive, then you should be able to take care of the community. When you take care of the community, you create jobs for the community, and you are known as a good person, then even chances of people wanting to kill you or to injure you or steal from you, they go down.
Okay, because you are giving back.
Yes, you are giving back to the community.
All right. One of the questions that startups often ask about or wonder about is whether or not it's a good idea to borrow money to start a business. This is something that you've applied your mind to, about which I'd like you to share a little bit more.
All right. So I think it depends on what business you are talking about. Because there are business ideas that do not need funding at all. Most of them, they don't need funding. And when we look at all the big people that we have ever heard of in entrepreneurship circles, you realize that they started with nothing, with almost nothing, or with nothing at all. We know that some of them started in the garage. You know, they didn't have anything special. And when you read the book, The Millionaire Next Door, the authors...
Dr. Thomas Stanley.
Yes. They say that out of the research that they did, where they were trying to look for the rich and to ask them their secrets, they realized that the big suburbs where they were going, that's not where the guys were found. The guys were staying elsewhere. People who wanted to have a great image, to look big, are the ones who were staying in those homes. And that research showed that about 85% of millionaires are self-made millionaires, which means they started with nothing or almost nothing. So I would say people need to be funded for growth, not for starting up. But of late, I've changed my thinking a little bit. When I look at some big projects, there are some big projects that unless you are funded, you can't do much, or you can't even start. But generally, for most businesses, you can start without money. And I think also there's a mistake when it comes to capital. People give an excuse that I cannot capital. I don't have capital, so I can't start. But Lerumo, did somebody fund you to become who you are without us going anywhere far?
Not initially. It was all about growth, like you say.
Yeah.
But how do we inculcate that mindset? I'll tell you why I'm asking you this question. If you go to YDF, for instance, you'll hear that 90% of those youth grants, where people are collecting 100,000 each or thereabouts, fail. And this 100,000 is not a small amount, but 90% of these are failing. Why?
The interesting thing is that it will not just be YDF. We know that worldwide, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. So the other time I was talking to a young man, because I love working with young people and mentoring them. I just get so much pleasure because I didn't get that when I was growing up. So if I can have a privilege to give some ideas to somebody and they start off and they do well, that's not just for me, but it's for the economy. That makes me very happy. So I was talking to somebody and he told me, you know what, for the past 4 years, I've been thinking of this particular business idea. And he explained it to me. He was very enthusiastic and I was very happy. I thought like, wow, this would be very helpful to the country. And I asked him, so why have you not yet started doing it? He says, no, you see, I've been writing my proposal and so on. I said, so how much do you need? I think I need about 8 to 10 million pula. I'm like, okay, 8 to 10 million pula for this particular project. So where are you going to get it? He says, no, I'm trying, I need to go to CEDA, I need to go to YDF, I need to NDB. And I said, okay, that's great. So have you ever run a business before in your life? He says, no. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Even if I had 1,000 pula to give you, I didn't tell him that, but I'm thinking in my mind, even if I had 1,000, I would not give you. You are a high risk You just want to start with 8 million. Like, who has ever seen 8 million with their two eyes?
Yeah.
You want 8 million when you have never traded with 10 puller. You are a high risk. You could make it, but because of the statistics, they stand against you. It's very difficult for us to believe that you can make it. And you remember when Robert Kiyosaki was saying, somebody once came to him and he said, Kiyosaki, I'm in trouble. I built some high-rise buildings and I'm owing, was it 3 million or 5 million US dollars? So he came to Kiyosaki and he needed help. And Kiyosaki said, okay, so you say you built some high-rise buildings? He says, yes. He said, before you did that, what else had you built? Did you ever build a one room? He said, no. Did you ever build a two rooms? He said, no. Did you ever build a one bedroom? He said, no. And Kiyosaki said, you are the biggest risk, and I know why. You have lost money. And my money is not going to join the one that you have already lost.
Because of your track record.
Because of your track record.
So given that situation, what advice would you give to the people administering YDF or people dishing out this money on behalf of government?
That's a tricky one. I think they are doing their job very well. And you and me, Remohobe, we have lost money before, guaranteed. You give somebody 500 puller, you want to empower them, and that's the last time you see the person, and that's the last time you see the money. So sometimes it's not easy to really assess a person and say, this one will definitely make it. But what I could say to lenders is that, which I think they are already doing anyway, is to ensure that when you are funding somebody, there must be a way to ensure that this person does not have independence on the money that they have been given. Yeah. For instance, not
what
just.
What do you mean exactly?
Okay. So for instance, if I were lending money to someone right now, I will avoid the mistakes that I've done in the past. Let's say somebody comes to me and they say, I need 50,000. They have a brilliant idea. Instead of me just giving them the 50,000, I want to know who is mentoring them. And also, I want to control the cash. I'm not going to give them the money. I will pay to their suppliers. So the suppliers bring the invoice, we pay. So this is to avoid the temptation for chowing the capital of the business. And many people don't like that because their idea is, I want 4 million to start a business and to grow it. Very soon it will be big. So they want the 4 million in their account and they are the only signatory so that they are in control. Then they can use 2 million and they still believe 2 million is a lot of money, the remainder. But before you know it, even that other 2 million is gone. So I think there should just be some control measures. And in some cases, if possible, depending on who is lending, in some cases I think it's just a matter of saying, this is sometimes how I test people. So somebody wants capital to start a business. I'm not saying I'm a rich person. I'm not saying people should come to me. But I'm saying, because I love people and I work with people.
I think you're a rich person. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when somebody comes to me and they want money, I will say to them, okay, fine. So is it okay if I can be a signatory with you, or I have one of my guys being a signatory with you? Most of the time, the person's face changes. You must not be part of this. I must own everything. Then I know that this one, if I give them money,
they don't want control.
They don't. Yeah, you see.
And then tell me about, is there a method that you've studied, the best way to fund startups?
Startups. Okay, the easiest way that startups can fund themselves, obviously they can do bootstrapping.
What's that?
Where you fund internally. You avoid external funds. External funds will always have a danger. For example, you go to a micro lender and you get 20,000 puller. You put it in the business. You are hoping, you and I, Remohobe, know what happens in entrepreneurship. And the viewers, they know as well. You can actually borrow money and you are hoping that by 1 week I will have returned it. But 1 month later you have not returned and you are in hot soup.
Avoiding calls.
Yes, you are now avoiding calls. Maybe you didn't really plan to run away, but you join the rest of the people who do that. So I think bootstrapping is one of the best ways. Bootstrapping, I wrote about it in the book. There are many examples of bootstrapping.
Give a few.
For example, you can buy things at the auction. Buy equipment or vehicles at the auction rather than buying cash in the plastic. Or maybe you can just buy second-hand things. Or maybe you can do trade credit. There are many ways in which somebody can do without actually having to spend a lot of money.
What is trade credit?
Trade credit is where you are able to buy things without paying there and then. So, for instance, I come and get some stuff from you. Let's say I sell shoes, for example, and you are a manufacturer. I could get into an agreement with you. Remo Mogobe, can you allow me to pay you after a month? Yeah, every 30 days I come and pay you. And if Remo Mogobe agrees and he believes in what I'm doing, then that makes life easier. So in a way, that's actually a way of funding your business.
A lot of our viewers, and I'm sure even some of your clients, they are, thinking of retiring and then starting businesses. What advice do you give for those people where people are, it's a form of delayed gratification in a sense. You're waiting, you're delaying and delaying until you're at a certain age to start a business.
Remo Mogobe, this one comes to me with a little bit of emotions because I've seen it quite a lot in, when you do financial literacy consulting and training and stuff. I've seen a lot of that. The skill set that one needs as an employee is not the same as for an entrepreneur. I think you and I have read Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, where he talks about employment, he talks about self-employment, he talks about business owner, he talks about investor.
4 quadrants.
4 quadrants. So when you are an employee, there are certain skills you need within your job. When you become self-employed, you need to think differently, but it's not too different from an employee. Now you are learning to run your own thing, but you are in full control and you are not answerable to anybody that much. But when you become a business owner, you now build systems, you build processes like that. Even when Remo Mogobe is not there, Remo Mogobe goes to Dubai on holiday for 1 year. He comes back, the business has grown. He's a business owner. He has put systems, he has hired the right people and put them in place, and they have everything put in place. That's a business owner. So I think for most people, we just have to be talking about employee to self-employment. So you quit your job. Actually, I used to have that line of thinking many years ago, Remo Mogobe. I was saying, as an employee, I just want to retire at 50. And the question is, you retire at 50, how much have you amassed? These days, people are living longer. So, at 50, you have retired, you got your package. From there, you then realize that whatever it is you had saved for retirement is not enough. You need to go back to work. Or maybe you say, the other day I was talking to a friend of mine, very recent. And when you're talking with friends, it's risky to mention certain things. So this friend of mine says to me, look, I'm just about to retire. I'm 46, and I know he's around there. He's about to retire. I say, okay, so when you retire, what do you want to do? He says, I've got a little farm, with the pudi, the komo, inging. I'm like, okay.
Goats and cattle.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, fine. So that's what you are going to do when you have retired? He said, yes. I said, okay, that's fine. Then I kept quiet. After 2 days, I felt like, you know what? This is my friend. And I think it would not be right for me not to share with him my thoughts. So I say to him, do you realize that you are quitting your job and you are starting another job? This farm you are starting, you need skills. It's one thing to be a subsistence farmer, grow a little bit of vegetables, have a little bit of this, have a little for fun. A hobby is not the same as running a business, because very soon you are going to realize that the farm you are getting yourself into, you need to learn how to run a farm. Unless you know how to run it, and before you quit your job, you can already see income, cash flow, because they say cash flow is king, isn't it? Is cash flow already running, or you are going to try and make the cash flow run when you are done? So my advice to people is that do not try to do things that you were not doing before you retired.
So what happened to a typical civil servant who retires at 60 and goes to run the farm? Do they ever gain traction? Do they ever succeed?
If at all they succeed, there will be very few of them, Remogobe. There will be very few of them. Number one, in many cases, when you retire, it means you are tired physically, emotionally, and psychologically. You want a rest. Now, entrepreneurs don't rest like that. Entrepreneurship is hard work.
Non-stop.
It's non-stop. So you are quitting 8 hours job, 8 hours a day job. Now you are starting a business, you need 16 hours. You need 18 hours if things are going to work. So I think when people say, I want to start my own business, probably that's why also when you listen to governments speaking, and they are talking about agriculture and some of these things, they talk more about the youth. Why? Because youth still have the energy. As you grow older and you want to start something new, Jack Ma also talks about that. He says, don't try new things when you cross 50. Now, obviously, there are people who have tried new things at 60 and they succeeded. But the question is, how much percentage is it? So there is no harm in you retiring, and you have a retirement fund, you have cattle and all that, and you have something to keep yourself busy. That's fine. But if that's going to be your source of income, that's where I'm a little bit worried. Because some people actually take a huge portion of their pension and they put it into a business. Business, unless you really know what you are doing, it's like you are gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the whole idea of some people then starting a side hustle or creating 1 or 2 streams of income before they retire, speak to that, because I know it's something that you encourage and you support.
Right. I support people starting a business while they are still working, but provided the employer allows it. That's one big question mark. I know that many companies or many organizations, they say, if you declare that you are doing this, that's fine. But most employers also might say, no, you mustn't do it. But there is one secret.
Even after hours, that seems unreasonable.
Yeah, that becomes very unreasonable, because obviously you have 8 hours working for your employer, probably 8 hours sleeping.
That's your contractual
that's 16.
commitment. Yeah.
Then you have your own 8 hours that you could be doing other things. So what I would say to people is, if you decide to run something on the side, let it not encroach into your employer's time. Let it not encroach into what your employer is doing. I know one relative of mine, his life is not going on well, because his problem, at one time I hired him in one of my companies. I hired him, and the next thing, I remember somebody very close to me saying, be careful of this guy. Be careful of this guy. One day I got a call from a client in Mulepulule. Hello, yes, yeah. I'm waiting for so-and-so to come and, deliver. And, I'm like, okay, who are you? Because I didn't have them in our records. Only to realize that this guy had taken over he was now doing what we do for other people. That's wrong. You are sowing a wrong seed. So
competing with himself.
Yeah, he was beating himself.
Yeah, biting the hand that feeds you.
You see? And then we had to part ways. He went to another person again who was registering companies, company secretarial. He started his own company secretarial company within this company secretarial company. He has his own clients in the, no,
it didn't
guys.
last.
It's not right.
I'm sure it never lasted.
It never lasted. So even unto this day, he's struggling. So what I say to people is, be the best employee where you work. Do the best that you can, such that even when you are to tell your employer or your manager that I want to leave, they will beg you, please don't go. In that way, even if they know you are doing other things, they are not worried about you. Maybe they will actually assume, oh, maybe this person is succeeding in the workplace because they have exposure. They are doing other things out there. They are open-minded. But if you are a lazy person at work, you are dodgy at work, many times you are not in your office, and then you are also running your own things. Even if I was your manager, it's difficult for me to understand you.
Yeah, I want to ask you this question. You've done a PhD.
Yes.
And, you're also a very, very successful entrepreneur, very active. Do you think that your PhD, your Doctor of Philosophy degree, helped with the entrepreneurship, and why?
Yeah.
Because there's a debate among entrepreneurs
Right.
whether education at a certain level is a help or an impediment?
Right.
You've had that debate.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, that's a very good question. So, I don't think every entrepreneur must have a PhD. I don't think every entrepreneur must have a master's degree or a degree as such. But what happens is there are entrepreneurs that are not highly educated or highly schooled, but they are big on personal development. Right? I remember listening to Bill Gates, and he was saying that I dropped out of Harvard, but I've always been big on doing short courses. And you know, Bill Gates is said to read a minimum 1 hour per day before he sleeps. So you can see
he also takes reading holidays or vacations.
You see, yes, and you have said it before, right?
Yes.
To say Bill Gates is big at taking holiday vacations to go and read. So I'm trying to balance it so that I am, because I have a PhD, I shouldn't sound like when you have PhD, that's when you make it. No, but I think answering your question, having a PhD helped me big time, particularly in my line of business. Because I did the PhD specifically because I wanted to be an authentic consultant. That when people listen to me, they know that I'm not just talking, but I've done research at the highest level, and I'm doing continuous research at the highest level. And interesting enough, my PhD, my thesis was on SMME development. So being somebody passionate with small, medium, and micro enterprise development, that's very useful. And the research that I did when I was doing the dissertation is very instrumental. Actually, some of the things that you find in this book, What You Have Is Enough, is from that thesis for the PhD. I hope that answers.
So from my understanding of your question, the PhD was only helpful because you studied entrepreneurship. If it was in any other field, it may not necessarily been useful.
Yeah, talking about me specifically,
Yes.
yes, I had to do it on entrepreneurship so that it aligns with my passion and what I stand for. So it shouldn't be that because I'm an entrepreneur, so I just want to have a PhD, any PhD. It may not work for you. Of course, it will open up your mind.
I read a biography by a certain Jack Welch, which was one of the most successful CEOs in America.
Yeah.
And
General Electric.
Yeah, he acquired his PhD at age 24.
Right.
Because he wanted to be called Dr. So-and-so.
Right.
But when he went to industry, he then realized that it's more of an impediment than a help.
Yeah.
And then he instructed everybody to stop calling him, to never ever call him Dr. Welch.
That's
and I'm sure you may be one of those people who may not even know that he has a PhD.
Yeah. I've read his biography, so I would know that.
Yeah, you would know.
Yeah.
So that is where part of this thinking is coming from. I want you to please just help the viewers understand why there's that slight stigma associated with PhDs.
I think it's a very interesting question, Remugobe.
Yes.
You know why? I think there's a difference between school and education. You can go to school, and if you go to school and you're not applying what you have learned, then that schooling is not helping you. So probably what Jack Welch saw is that he learned so much theory in class. When he now came to the corporate, he realized, some of the things that I learned are not helpful. So he had then to learn to be, to experiment and learn the craft as it were. So I would say going to school is good. It opens up your eyes, and especially if you are meeting with people and you are growing your social capital, you can network, and it can help you even when you want to fund your business tomorrow because your classmate, something like that. But otherwise, just going to school, our school system is questionable. It doesn't give you everything that you need. That's why many entrepreneurs that are highly successful may not even have a degree.
Yeah.
Because they have learned to be street smart, and they have learned to deal with personal development. But one most important thing about almost all these entrepreneurs that probably dropped out of school or don't take school seriously, they hire smart people, smart graduates. So they support you on what you don't have.
So they still need education.
Yeah, so the education is still needed. I may not have it. I may just have basic. Then I just do short courses, and I have my mentors, and I read a lot of books, watch some videos, go on YouTube, watch Mogobe podcast,
Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom,
Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, and things like that. So you empower yourself. But in the meantime, when it comes to accounting, you know nothing. When it comes to the law, you may not know much. When it comes to property, maybe your company is growing and you want to invest in property, you know now. So you now need to surround yourself with a team of experts that cover you up. And those experts will have gone to school. They are professionals.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need the right amount of knowledge to cover up.
Yeah.
But what do you think of those skeptics who say, what do you say to those skeptics who say that education itself, formal education, has a way of limiting your thinking? So some things you have to unlearn.
I will agree with them and disagree with them at the same time. To a certain extent, surely, education has a way of limiting you because it gives you a comfort zone. Yeah? You know that because I'm educated, if things don't work out, I'll go and look for a job. That's different from somebody who says, look, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a fighter, this thing must work. I don't have plan B, plan A all the way. There's a difference there. I mean, even when you go into let's say you are doing wrestling or boxing with somebody who just comes knowing very well that there is no other way, I'm going to win. And when you are just coming saying, I'm a strong guy, I have a good history. If I lose, it's fine. But if I win, that will be great. You will be hammered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You will be hammered.
So education has a way of giving you the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing because we also have some educated people who have succeeded. Like you remember when I interviewed Mr. Ram of Choppies.
Yeah, that thing went viral.
You see, it went viral. You know, he's a chartered accountant.
Yeah.
And when I was asking him, and he said that because he is educated, he was not worried about failure. He knew that if business doesn't work out, he would go back to his job. But today he's one of the biggest guys.
Yes.
So that's why I said I agree to a certain extent and I don't agree to a certain extent because you will still have your Donald Trump, highly educated, Wharton School of Business, highly successful businessman. But there are others who didn't go to school and they are successful. So all in all, Remohobe, what I can say is each one of us must be able to look at ourselves. As people advise us, we must notice that whatever people say, even for you and me, when we do these videos, there are things that we are generalizing.
Yes.
But there are specific circumstances for each and every one of us.
Yes.
It's just like people who say, business is very difficult, you can't make it. But how are others making it? Oh, marriage doesn't work these days, you can't trust partners, all men are dogs, things like that.
Yeah.
But there are people who have a different testimony.
A lot of them.
We can't generalize.
Yeah.
Some things need to go specific.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, this one I'm asking for myself. I really want to hear your answer for that. And I'm going to ask this one slowly.
Okay.
What is the number one secret for success in life and business?
Right.
I'm holding my breath. I want to hear the answer to this one.
You already know the answer, Remohobe. And I think many of our viewers also know the answer. The number one secret is developing your mind.
Personal development.
Personal development. I believe that's the greatest investment of all. In my book, 15 Secrets for Personal Financial Success, the first one, not this one.
Yeah.
In 15 Secrets for Personal Financial Success, I wrote about how, about 97%, research says about 97% of people who win casino or who go gambling and they get money, 97% of them, their lives become worse than they were before. So sometimes we think that it's about the resources, not realizing that it's about me. If I don't develop myself, even if money comes, it will go back to where it came from.
Because someone has said it's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness.
Thank you.
And I've come to believe that.
Thank you. Now, if we are talking of resourcefulness, we are talking of you. Who are you? What are you doing to develop you? I mean, I've listened to your interview several times. I watch your videos, by the way.
Yes.
Yes,
Which
I watch
interview?
your videos. I watch all your videos.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you which one, but I will tell you what you were saying.
Yeah.
You are a product of two kettle posts, right? How come someone with a background like yours, you stay at a kettle post, parents having challenges there. You are now with in another cattle post, and then years later, we see this accomplished entrepreneur. And I must say, Remogobe, I know your profile. And I was talking to my wife the other day, and I said, you know what? I have a lot to learn from this man. Because when he is interviewing people, it's tempting, you know, to hijack what the other person, like young people like myself. Oh no, then I was consulting a big project. But you have done many bigger projects. And I've watched your interviews, and it's very rare of you actually mentioning how great you are and things like that. And I think it's partly because of your fear of God, but I think also because you know your journey. You know you're not a superhuman. It was a process.
Yes.
You know, so you take yourself as a student of life. So I believe if somebody can come from the cattle post to become a great entrepreneur, great lawyer, great property investor, great so many things that you're doing. Now you're into restaurants and all these things.
Yeah, I think I understand your answer to be that the number one secret is no secret at all.
Yeah.
It is not a secret, which is why if you watch books like movies like The Secret, or books, it's a book and a movie.
Yeah.
Like The Secret, you really listen to what they are saying. It's not really a secret.
It's not.
The wisdom has been known for millennia,
For
millions,
yeah.
for hundreds of thousands of years.
Very true.
And
so the question is, are we willing to pay the price to educate ourselves? Because I think particularly for us Africans, let me say Africans, but I don't think it's only Africans, because you and I know people across the world. Every country has got people who are struggling. You can struggle for a moment, but to struggle forever means you are not changing what you know. You know, so reading books, going for coaching, being mentored. I know you have a mentorship program.
Yeah.
You know, getting mentored. And some people will be thinking, Remogobe, he's a nice guy, he should just mentor me for free. Yes, there are people that are mentored for free, but free things are free things. I help you when I have the time.
Yeah.
But when you sign up for a mentorship program and you pay, you are a serious person.
Yeah.
Then Remogobe will create time for you.
And he will, commitment.
Yes, you have shown commitment. Because otherwise, if you are... So the other problem that we have is people are not willing to pay the price.
Yeah.
They are not willing to pay out money for their education, particularly self-education. Because somebody will say, you know what, when it comes to schooling, I'm not good.
In other words, they are not willing to make the most important investment ever.
Yeah.
Where they are asking the mentor to sacrifice one of the most important commodities ever, which is his time.
His time.
Most irreplaceable commodity ever. So they need to, I mean, if you are a mentee out there, a potential mentee, you need to consider that.
Definitely.
You want the mentor to invest something which is precious, but you are not willing to invest just a nominal amount.
If coaching and mentorship were not important, why would Michael Jordan have a coach?
Why would Serena Williams have a coach?
Why do they have coaches?
Why would top businessmen in Silicon Valley have coaches, business coaches? Okay, all right, let's continue. This one, I don't know whether we've answered it before indirectly, but I'll ask it anyway. Why do you say to people who are seeking financing in the millions that they have not started business yet?
So you are looking for a lot of money for you to start a business, and it's taking you time. Start with what you have. Start where you are. For instance, you want to go into farming. You are very passionate and you know what you want to do, but you don't have a farm. Are there no farms that are not being used right now?
There are.
What stops you from going to the Botswana advertiser? You advertise, I'm looking for a farm to lease, looking for a farm to use. And then somebody will reach out to you and say, yeah, I have a farm. Actually, I'm not happy because people are vandalizing. You know, there were some buildings and la 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 la. Okay, cool. Some of the people, you will be surprised. You know, something I've realized, the moment you cross 40, unless there's a challenge with your mind, you know, but generally most people, when they cross 40, they want to plow back to society.
Yes.
They want to leave a legacy.
Yes.
So you will actually find some people who are not using their farms, who are willing to let somebody use it.
Yeah,
Some
at
of them
for a period before you can maybe pay them.
You see?
They might say, 6 months, you pay me. After 6 months, you start paying me.
And some of them I know, they will actually say, whatever you are producing there, you give me something.
The percentage.
So there's no pressure there. That's funding. Don't sit at home and say, I'm still waiting for the 100,000 funding. Nobody wants to fund me. Nobody was funded. Very few people were funded.
So, Dr. Mutoko, it's been a year since you were last here. A year is 12 months. How has it been during COVID? Any significant accomplishments or any significant events you want to share?
I would like to say that what I learned is that when the first lockdown came in, I was surprised because that's when I got the highest number of clients for coaching. I became so busy. But it didn't just happen like that. At first, people were skeptical. And then, you know, when you have a chat with people and encourage them, guys, we have to do these things virtual. We don't have to meet each other. Slowly, people caught up to these virtual things. And I started teaching myself more to understand more about virtual and stuff like that. Became a certified speaker, certified online speaker. And it gave me an opportunity because I ended up being invited to Europe. So I spoke virtually to a global event. That was my first time to speak at a global event. So I spoke at an event in Europe virtually. It went on so well, and it opened new opportunities everywhere. So I would like to say to people, during difficult times, great people are made. Difficult times can actually make some people to sink into oblivion. But if you change your thinking and you develop yourself more, you read every day, you change also even your social capital. You know, get to know more people, increase your network, and that will determine your net worth as well.
And is it something that that has happened specifically in the last 12 months?
Yes.
This year, for instance, anything significant to share?
I wouldn't want to share too many things, but like I'm saying, if you listen to some of the examples I'm giving, you can see that I'm a consultant, I'm a speaker, and now rated as a global speaker, being invited to different places. Even the amount of money that I charge since the past 12 months is not the same as I used to charge. Because isn't it, there is the issue of demand and supply. When you elevate yourself to a certain level, then people are now looking for you and people begin to recommend you. So I do what I love, and many people don't believe that you should be paid for speaking, by the way. You and I are speakers. Some people think when they call Remo Hobe, he must speak for free. There's no harm in me blessing the community. I can speak at 100% discount, but I don't speak for free, right? If everybody can speak, why is everybody not speaking? The fact that you were born speaking doesn't make you a speaker. No. The fact that you were born walking or you could run doesn't make you an accomplished athlete. No. You have to develop yourself to become a national speaker, to become an international speaker, to become a global speaker.
To craft your message.
Yes.
To have a crafted message, you know. A purposeful message.
Purposeful message. And I would also say in the past 12 months, because of the challenges that CEOs and directors have been facing, I've also seen quite a lot of high-level, you know, executives coming for my executive coaching program and also coming for change management consultancy. Wow. So that has been very good for me.
That's a big development. Yeah. Now, I don't know whether the young man had warned you that you get to ask me a question. Or if you've seen the previous nuggets, you know that you have this opportunity
to ask you a question.
This is the time.
Thank you so much. My question is very simple. And thank you for the opportunity. It's nice to be able to ask the interviewer. So, Remo Hobe, if you were to start all over again, what would you do? Let's say this is Remo Hobe. This is COVID-19. We are in this pandemic, and things are not, God forbid, things are not working at all. What would Remo Hobe do?
I will answer it in two ways. The first way is to say, and I always tell my children that my biggest regret is that I focused exclusively on academics early and did not know about a thing called personal development. What you described as the biggest secret. I think I became concerted about it in my 30s in terms of reading, learning, developing myself, being conscientious about it, attending courses, seminars, and exposing myself to content, positive, empowering content. And the biggest thing that I would do is start earlier, start my personal development journey earlier. That is the only major change that I would do. Because I was talking to my daughter the other day when my library is full of books, and I said to her, do you realize that this is the most expensive part of the house? Mm-hmm. This part of the house is worth billions, right, referring to my library. And I said to her, the greatest thing though is that when the thieves break into the house, this is the last place they will look. That is the most beautiful thing. They will not be bothered about these books that can change one's life. So the only small change, I'm happy with the way my life has run. I've had obstacles and I've had challenges, and some of them are called cataclysmic events. And if you go to the nuggets, there's a portion of the nuggets where I talk about how adversity turned into blessings. And all those adversities are in fact disasters and calamities that occurred in my life. I think I listed about 10 of them. And all of them, without exception, had blessings embedded in there, because what Napoleon Hill, and to some extent, to a great extent, the Bible also says, is that inside any adversity is a promise of a greater or equivalent blessing.
Wow.
So in answering that question, I'm just saying I would just relive my life exactly as I'm living it, but I would rewind and do certain things earlier, right, because they make all the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I
Very
hope
inspiring.
I've answered the question satisfactorily.
No, you have. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to invite you to look at that camera there.
Okay.
There's someone out there who might be needing words of inspiration, a word of advice, someone who might be feeling hopeless, someone sitting at home, or even an entrepreneur who needs 1 or 2 words of encouragement and support.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, viewer, for being with us during this segment. I appreciate you. Now, what I wanted to say to you is that you have something in you that can make the difference in your life. When you see all these people that are more successful probably than you, they were not born like that. They started somewhere. So you need to remember, even in the Bible, God never, many of the times when miracles were performed, God used what the person had. For example, Moses, when God wanted to perform a miracle, he asked him, what do you have? And he had a staff in his hand. And God performed miracles using that staff. Another time, Prophet Elijah was faced with a woman who was struggling, who was left with a little flour and a little oil. And Elijah said, bake a cake for me when I eat. He knew that when he eats, then the blessings will come. So you see, God will always bless. So that widow was blessed because she was willing to use the little flour she had and the little oil she had. During Prophet Elisha's time also, we see another widow who was struggling. The husband had died and he had left a lot of debts, and the children were about to be taken away as slaves because of the mother who was owing. And what does Prophet Elisha say? He says, go, and what do you have? He says, I have a little oil. You always have something little that God can bless so that you get to another level. So to cut the long story short, in that story, this widow borrows vessels, and that little oil becomes a miraculous one. So God will always use what you already have. Maybe you have a little idea. Don't be too stingy with the idea. Be willing to have investors come in, even if they take 70% ownership of the business and they give you 30%. It's better than you doing nothing. There are people who sit on their idea until one day they realize somebody else is already doing the same thing, because you were waiting too long. If somebody has 100,000, they bring it into the business and they say they will have 70% ownership, which means you have 30% ownership. That means from the beginning you already have 30,000 puller, which you didn't have. So I want to say to us, every one of us has something in them. Good farmers will always preserve good seed to plant. Don't take yourself for granted. Don't kill yourself. Even if you lose your job, that's not the end of life. When one door closes, other doors are opening. So stay encouraged. Do not be discouraged. Do not cry. Remember, you cannot make excuses and make money at the same time. Arise. It's your time. Thank you so much.
We have to stop making excuses and focus on making the money. That's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm with the author of What You Have Is Enough, Dr. Wilbert Mutoko. What you've shared with us has been very powerful. But before we part, please share your contact details with the listener so that they can be able to carry on this conversation, perhaps use some of your services.
Thank you very much. So thank you, dear viewers. You can get hold of me on 71824591. 71824591. Or we can connect on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube as Dr. Wilbert Mutoko. Thank you so much. God bless you.